Hey everybody, it's Mike over here at Mike's Custom Works, and so you're kind of seeing like a little bit. I haven't finished the table yet for the wine fridge, but that is the legs for it right now. They're arch stained. They're sitting. I'm waiting on the gloss to come in so they can actually start looking like a lake. And at that point, you guys will see that in the video that we first done. I'm experimenting right now with epoxy. I've never dealt with epoxy before. It's a two-part system. I'm trying a little experiment down there. Up here, I came up with the smoking log, which is pretty cool. So you'll see photos of that soon. But I wanted to show you actually exactly of what I got like lingering around for it. So I'm actually going to start cutting a log before I start pulling all this extremely fragile, expensive glass out. But this is the four-part system that's going into it. So the first thing that you do have for the coffee is there's this little ice holder here. And this is vaguely the shape of it. I took all the measurements out of the bottle. I mean out of the packaging. I took the parts out, did some measurements on them so I have an idea of what I'm working with, the dimensions for when it sits in the wood. So you have the ice holder, you have the coffee holder where the coffee grains sit in here. There's a little ceramic part that sits, I think, down here, I think is where it is. I'm not sure if it's there or it's on top. I think the filter sits down here with the ceramic, and then there's a filter on top, some little weird system. And then there's this where this will now, so the ice goes into here and it gets drip, 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 drip into here. Then the coffee and the water mix together and you get coffee. That drips out of here into this little top of here, and this little spiral, and it goes down into the final jar, which is going to be this guy here, which has a nice little spigot on it so that in case I'm filling up like containers or I'm filling up coffee cups, it has a place for it to go. And the reason why I would say for anybody else to actually buy one of these is you see that like difference between the nozzle and the bottom? Well, what's good with that is in case for whatever crazy wacky reason coffee grains actually end up in there, because this system is a little interesting. I'm new to it. I've never dealt with it before, and I'm actually just making one from scratch. The legitimate system from Yuma, Y-U-M-A, which is where I bought the parts from. Yuma right there, Y-U-M-A. It's a company that's in Taiwan. It's like $400 and change. Now, of course, like my girlfriend had stated to me, why don't you just buy it? It's $400. Because what you're making is probably going to cost you more, and it's a lot more legwork. Well, you know what it is? I want to make it my own, so that's why I'm shooting this little video. I'm putting like skeletons in it. I'm putting little different, like I'm doing LED lighting on it. I'm dealing with some epoxy, dealing with some stuff that glows in the dark. So I'm really making it my own. Plus I'm making it from wood, from the trees that are in my backyard. And as you see, you know, you got the legs here and you got the tabletop, and that's just for my wine fridge. They're going to be really, really sick when they're done, and it's a lot of work. Because every time I stop and I start thinking and I look at something online, I get like another idea, and it just adds to the list of the things. And yeah, probably each project outside of this one is probably going to cost over $400 all said and done. But you know what it is? Oh, it's a fun thing that you can actually do with yourself, your family, your spouse, your kids. You know, no one can get hurt as long as the main person who's using the power tools knows what they're doing. A drill is minor, but you could drill through your finger. I've done that years ago when I was younger. A chop saw, mine of course, is completely illegal. I took off the whole safety piece. I cut it off, so the blade's always open. A kid like that can always get hurt. And using a router, if you never used one before like I did, and I finally was able to get it down packed, and I kind of got this nice little edge going. Hey, not bad for somebody who's never used one before. That can hurt somebody too, because the way it sits and the blade for that is always out in the open. Other than that, you have your regular chemicals. As my stain that I used, which sat around inside my house for a couple years, because I used that when I did my floating sink, this worked out pretty good. It came out like really chunky, and it was hard to lay it on the wood. And I gotta say, like, the results afterwards actually isn't too bad. It just looks like a really dark cherry. But that's fine, I'm not complaining. I like the way that it came out. So what I want to do is I wanted to pick a log that I'm going to use to cut for the coffee drip. So I got my chainsaw hooked up once again, like always. So now I go into my little, like, you know, I call it my wood store. You know, every time I leave the house, I'm like, I'm heading to the wood store. So I'm looking at different logs of different sizes that I want. For an example, like, you know, we have that one. We have that one that are naturally rotted. Those are going to be earmarked for the nightstands, because I like the way they're rotted out like that, and I have an idea that I'm going to do with them. So that's why I earmarked those as for that. This wood here, I like this one because it's a small enough circumference It's not really big. And then the legs for the coffee drip system are going to be these branches right here. And because these branches are, yes, of course, they are bigger than the circumference, and I have a small little spot where, you know, the glass is going to sit, these are going to get like scalloped out on the corners where those legs are going to sit, and then the legs are going to have like a little cut scallopness so that the wood just sits right in there. And it's going to be a little fun and interesting trying to get this thing all assembled. But I figured I'd, you know, start shooting a video now of me cutting this up. I need 5 sections. I need the floor. So that's 1. And then each level is 4. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4. The bottom is 5. The bottom, because it's the base, I might actually just end up cutting from that big section that I used for the whatchamacallit, the wine fridge. So I might just use that as my base, because inside there I'm going to be storing the coffee bags that are going to be used for the coffee drip system, and then each layer is then going to have this. So I'll probably cut 4 slices out of this guy, and I'm going to cut 1 slice out of that big guy, and he's going to start off as the base, and that's kind of like where everything is going to be kind of like self-contained inside of, because I want a flat base on this thing, just because there's a lot of glass and there's a lot of things that are going into this project, and I really just don't want to have like a shaky shimmy base that's a little sketchy, you know. So I'm going to start off with cutting this guy up. Alright guys, so I had to take some footage off the camera. But anyway, this is what I had to do with the spiral. I had to put a piece here and glue it in there, so that's still got to get sanded and prepped and ready for staining. But I did get the base, and all the other components are stained right now. They got their first coat on it. I got the legs that are right there. I'm about to start bringing them inside the garage and start getting them all cut up to the lengths that I want them at. And then getting them also, you know, sanded down as well. Whew, that stain is getting to me. So I'm going to start doing that now with the legs. Do each leg at a time. I'm gonna take a leg. Let's see if I can stick it differently. Mounting on top of the router. There we go. That kind of works. So I'm going to do each leg one at a time. I'm going to cut them, cut off the little nubs, make them flat on the bottom. The shortest one is going to be the height, and it's actually kind of perfect because it's like almost as tall as me. I don't want this thing over 5 feet tall anyway. It's probably going to end up being a lot shorter anyway, but at least I want to get like all of them cut to the same height. Now I do have one of them that's thick, and I got one of them that's like another V section of wood. So that's perfect. I'm going to use that one as well, just like I did when I did the table for the wine fridge. I'm going to do that same type of system where it's going to have like the two V's that are going to cut into whatever level that it ends up hitting. So it's going to be like another little like tripod stand. So that's going to be kind of cool. I'm trying to think of anything else to tell you guys because I'm going to be listening to music, so are you, and I'll be speechless to you. That's really about it. I know I have to get like another jar of stain. If you guys are wondering what stain I have been using, it's this one here. It's pretty good. This one I've had for a long time, and it's starting to like dry out in a lot of spots, so that's why I said like I'm probably going to just need like another can of stain because it's just really not working up to what I want right now. But yeah, that stuff's got to dry. I got to give it like another coat. I'm also going to stain the bottom of all of them. And then when everything is all cut and prepped again, because like that's like the first layer of stain. I still have to like cut into the wood again. So I still got to cut into it and make all the markings of where it's going to line up with the legs. And then it's going to get stained again. Then it's going to sit for a couple days so it can thoroughly dry out. And then each section I'm going to do with epoxy on their own. And that's when I'm going to actually start doing the glaze coat epoxy that I bought. I'm going to use that instead of the other A and B epoxy that I bought from Trexpex or Trekpex, whatever the hell it is. I bought the glaze coat intentionally because it was supposed to be really easy to use. Turned out to be that stuff is easy to use too. Like I didn't have to sand it down like I see in people's videos. I don't know what they're using, but I see a lot of people, they put down the epoxy and then they sand the shit out of it and then they have to polish it for hours on end. And I'm trying to avoid that because I don't feel like screwing anything up. And I feel like that's just a waste of time to go down that road. So if I can find an epoxy that's cheap enough, yet does what I want it to do, I have no complaints. And so far the other stuff's doing it. And glaze coat epoxy from my saw in videos is just as good too. So kind of like weighing my options. Are the $20 for that, or I think it was like $20 or $30 for those, so I don't know. I'll have the prices in the description, of course, of everything and how much everything costs, all said and done, minus the cost of electric and cases of beer. So I'm going to start doing that. I'll be back to you guys when I can. Okay, Google. Play Stain album.
Alright, here's Stained on YouTube Music.
Alright guys, so in the land of the sodas here. Alright, so I'll give you guys a little update on what's going on, because haven't really been filming while I'm working on this, because either the camera's dead or I just forget to grab the camera. Grabbed a couple beers. My knee, I woke up with a wicked knee hurting me, and it's 9:40 on September 27th. I've been up since 7. Didn't just wake up now. I've been dicking around with a few things. My wine fridge table, I discovered it was a little bit too unstable, so I had to make some mounting sections of wood and lumber to brackets. I got to make mounting brackets. I had one sip of beer, my brain went. So then I've transitioned over to now where I'm working on the legs for the coffee drip system. What I've been doing is I'm lining up the notching, and I do the notching with my chop saw. It's very dangerous. If you can do it safely, I'd say it's the most satisfying way of doing it. If you think that's too dangerous and it's stupid, then do it yourself a different way. And then on the bottoms of them, I put their lettering. So this is the right side here. I'm going to put you down so you can actually see the lining up of things here. And there's a sea of tools and sawdust, and it's hard for me to even find a location to stick the camera. Let's see if that works right there. Okay, so that kind of works. You kind of can sort of see. So you got the notching here, and I'm going to take the section. I scallop cut them up, the sections out already. So this is the right side, and it goes in, and it's going to sit down like here, because I don't want this exactly on the ground. That would look so thin, doesn't it? Jesus. But I still got to do the edges more, which involves me going back to the chop saw and just rounding off the edging a little bit so I can get the right amount of cut. Let's see that there. So I'm going to run the chop saw possibly in this area here, and then on the other side the same way, just so I can get like a nice little even cut. So that has a nice little look to it. And then I just take my file, just file down a little bit. Okay, so that sits there nice. Try it again. Slip it through the hole. See if it drops into place, and it does. So now it drops in nice. It's got a nice bite on top, nice bite on the bottom. So that one is done. So now I just start the next one. Just work my way through the whole bottom section. That is basically going to be the holder for the coffee bags. That has nothing to do at all with support. It's just for holding the coffee bags. Marking the bottom of the leg, then it's just the left side. Okay, so I started actually standing up the coffee drip system now. I got everything attached. I got the sections cut out on the the legs. I got the one section put in here. I started putting these little blocks, which are actually from pallets. So I got a bunch of pallets that I got from my job, and I've been taking the sections, cutting 3 inches off of them. And for some reason, when you cut 3 inches off, each layer turns into like perfectly little blocks. So actually, it's been working out pretty good, because then I stick them on the ends here. And then I got this up here. So now I'm going to start mocking it up as I go along. I'm going to drill the holes here and put the screws in so that this plate is now mounted into here tightly. And it's just because I want to mock it all up together to make sure that everything lines up perfectly. And then I'm going to actually end up staining it. I keep changing my idea. I keep going, oh, I'm going to take it apart, then stain it, then gloss it, then da-da-da-da-da. You know what? I'm going to assemble it all together. Once everything is assembled and I'm happy with the way it looks, I'll unscrew stuff a little, slip in some glue, and then screw it back together. But I wanted to make sure, like, this is our biggest section here, is this little jar is like 11.5 inches tall. So I got to make sure that the next level above it has enough clearance. So when I do that, I put that in there and I make sure that's secure. And then I'm going to put the little piece of fragile glass in there, which is the spiral. I don't want that to get broken. I will cry. Under here it's going to be the bags, of course, and then all the way at the top as it's about to hit my ceiling is where the ice is going to go. Belly vision. Hi guys. Hey guys, how you doing? Teddy Wise has a sore throat. So no, I don't have a sore throat, I just have a sore head. Alright, so why did I start recording? Well, I want to discuss a couple different things with the project, and I hate discussing shit on video because I feel like it just makes the video stupidly unneeded longer. So I have it standing, and my brain keeps going back and forth on different things I'm going to do, different things I'm going to change, different things I'm going to update. Where's my pen? No, that's not my pen. I'm looking for my marker. There it is. So one of the things that I want to modify a little bit with it is obviously the way these head tops are. I want to even them all out so they're all straight, because the last piece is going to sit here, and it doesn't actually have to be as tall top-wise as it is. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove each of these sections because they're going to get another coat of stain, but I also want to do with, I don't know if I'm going to do with all of them, because the bottom one has a thin layer, the second one has a thick layer, this one has a thick section, but I bought a bunch of little tiny skulls. And I'm going to drill holes in the wood in different spots. I'm going to input these skulls into it. The thing with these skulls is I have glow-in-the-dark powder coming of different colors. It's like, if I remember offhand, it's like green, blue, orange, purple, green, blue, orange, purple, and yellow, I think. I think there's 5 of them. And then I have a set of mica powders for epoxy as well that's coming. And that stuff is like in the same boat as well, but except it's not glow in the dark, and it's meant for, you know, putting pigment into stuff. So a little bit of coloration is going to be added to a couple things. But I wanted the skulls to have a glow in the dark feature on them. And one of the glow in the dark features I wanted was maybe like here, drill like a bunch of holes when the skulls come, and embed like all the skulls that are glow in the dark. The only issue I have with that is actually putting them in there with their epoxy. So I might have to like figure out how to like make glow-in-the-dark epoxy and then somehow mount the little heads onto something and then just paint their faces with the epoxy so they get that coloration, or somehow like roll them in it while the whole thing's getting epoxied in, because the heads are going to be glued in there, and then I want them glowing and stuff, but I don't want the whole platform glowing. I only want just the head glowing. And then maybe do some epoxy inside the rim here where the glass is going to have that glow, because that would be kind of cool. So I got a couple little different things that are going on. One of the things I did cross my mind with a couple times was actually getting some like wood filler and filling in some of this. And it's a little hard to see if I angle it. Maybe you could see it's like a little bit of imperfections in it. I went back and forth with it. I was like, you know what, even though the epoxy is going to have like, it's not going to be looking like a piece of glass on top, you're going to see like a little bit of the imperfections with the epoxy. But I'm not really too worried about that, because I want it to have a little bit of imperfections. That's what kind of makes it pop out. One of the things I forgot to do, and I thought about it recently, was on at least the 2 outer ones, going down is going to be a strip that's going to be bored out. And I bought some fish air pump tubing, and that's where the backflow insets are going to come into play. And you know, I'm going to cut them, I'm going to drill not drill, but like route out like a channel that's going to go down, and then I'm going to run the tubing inside of there. Now, of course, with that being said, looking at it directly, you are going to see the tubing, unless, because this is the front of it, I run the tubing along the back wall, so you don't see it. It's out of sight. You can still do it, but you don't have it on the face of the final product, seeing the stupid tube go down it, you know? Because it's going to be kind of hard to hide it, even if I was to try to like paint it. But then yet again, you're still going to see that it's painted. And if I tried using wood putty and filler, you're going to lose the natural coloration and the angling of the wood. So I'm going to hide those hoses as I go down. And those hoses are going to have little, I'm going to have them, you know, cut and sealed and glued together so that they have like little offshoots on them, so that the smoke goes down into, you know, like different areas. Nothing really in particular. Maybe I'll just have them like come out under one of these things where they're kind of like hidden. They'll pop out and they'll just like funnel down, so that they kind of like funnel down and they like land on the platform where the spiral is. Because that was my original plan, was they're gonna come down and then hit the platform where the spiral is. And if I have like 2 or 3 of them going, you know, then you're gonna have the effect of what looks like, you know, fog or mist going on. Because remember, this is skeletons that are going on here, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be a little bit of a process on itself. And what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm actually, even though it is fully assembled, just about, I still have to get this mounted on there, mount that thing in place. So that's going to have to get mounted on there as well. And then the next thing I have to do is these need like another coat of stain, because they're not completely fully coated the right way. I have to put little markings on it so that when I go to reassemble it, I know where the hell everything goes. The bottom section, the bottom piece, that can stay where it is. The only other issue I do have at the moment is that once I remove the 3 layers that are on there, the whole thing becomes extremely wobbly again, and it becomes a hassle. So I'm going to have to try to make like a little attachment on it too. Plus all these little pieces here are going to get stained as well. And I kind of wanted to sand them up a little bit so they don't look so tossed together, I guess. You know, I don't want them to look like they do. I want them to be a little bit more sanded. They have a little bit more of a nicer look to them than the way they look now. So I might have to take like one leg off, or take the whole thing apart completely, have it in like a ton of pieces, and then just make sure, you know, I go and touch every little part, and I sand the edges. I get them really nice, and then if I think I do some more masking tape, then I'm going to mask off the areas around the natural wood, and then do the staining and stuff on it so that they blend in with the platforms when they're done. And then once everything's completely and finally done, you know, we're talking about, I still need filters, I gotta get little skeletons. I've been going back and forth with doing like an LED roping. Jeez. This cough is kicking my ass sometimes. One of the things I was thinking about doing was actually kind of going in here, like the depth of an LED strip lighting, and then embed it in the backing of this so that it doesn't compromise the bowl going in here. And I was going to run LED lighting in here so that the bowl where the ice is glows, and that's still up in the air too, because, you know, I have to figure out exactly if I want to do that, and if I decide to do it, you know, how much more legwork is that going to actually put into play for it. There is no time restriction on this. It's an enjoyable project. For me, it's Saturday. I just got off work at 12 o'clock. I washed my car, and you know, I'm in the garage now talking to you fine people. / my camera, because nobody else is in here with me. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that mounted up. I got all the different parts here that I cut up. So I got all these different little pieces here, so I can start making the sections that go on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take off each section and then clean them, and then make a pile of them so that they can go through like stage 2 of getting stained again. Because some of them I added like little parts on, like little pieces of wood and stuff to hold up the spiral, so that needs another coat of stain on it as well. And then probably at that point, the whole thing would probably be in pieces at that point. and then that's when I'm going to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do, or this is what I'm going to do now, where I'm just going to like take it all apart so I can just do it the right way and pray that when I go to put it back together it's not a headache. So hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. Hey guys, so I am back and I got myself a new cool sweatshirt from a restaurant I took my girlfriend to last night during the quarantino time, right? We went to Blackberry's over in Sable. Anyway, so yeah, food's really good there. The drinks are good. People are nice, and it's good to finally go on like an actual date with my girlfriend during this fucking quarantine time. Anyway, I'm not promoting the restaurant. I just think it's a legit cool place to get some Cajun food. Alright, so what we're doing today on this little segment, I don't know why I start off with what we're doing today. I think it's because I'm used to just shooting one full-length video, so each day I film. Okay, so we are doing the glaze coating. Now, it restores and beautifies wood, metal, rock, masonry, fabric, leather, styrofoam, photos, plaques, and more. They're saying like what is it, like oh shit, my ass hurts. A pint will equal 3.2 square feet. Okay, so the thing is though, and it also says like creates a finish equal to 70 coats of varnish in one application. Alright. Well, what I'm doing is I want to show you a couple things. So I got my foam applicator. I've heard this is the best way for like applying it versus a paintbrush. And to be honest, the pack of foam brushes are a lot cheaper because I can get, for the price of like 2 good paintbrushes, I can get all these fucking guys for like the same amount. It's like 50 brushes. You know, so it's like 10 bucks or 11 bucks. Get like 50 brushes. So we got our applicator, so that's our first part. Also double check too, whatever you're using, I'm using a piece of packing foam. I want to make sure that this whole area is like really clean because I don't want to screw up this stuff. I want to keep stuff nice and clean. Okay, we got our I grew up, it was a tongue compressor. It's a piece of wood that you mix with your stir. You need that. You need 3 of these cups that have measurements. Take 1 cup, put the letter B on it, and put it by the B bottle, which is the black bottle. Take your cup, take another cup, put an A on it, and put it by your A bottle, which is the red and clear bottle. And then you need a C cup. I feel like there's something dirty that's going to be said next. The C cup is where you then mix both of them together and you blend them together before you start laying them out. Now I'm stirring it. Now you can kind of see like it's got like this like very metallically silver, quicksilver color. Well, that's like all the little bubbles inside. So you want to stir it until supposedly like all that goes away and you like really vigorously stir it. And it's supposed to start clearing itself out. Now I've seen it start clearing itself out before, but I've never used this glaze coat. It's like 5 minutes of stirring or something. If you have one that connects to like your drill, your life is a lot easier than just standing here stirring the cup. Now everybody shows like they're taking measurements and you know they're doing this and they're doing that and they're pouring this into this hole, into that hole, and yada yada yada. I'm trying to get one of the items I do need for this session. I'm on your fucking extension cord. I have to get crap everywhere. Wires that don't want to listen anymore. One of the things you need is a heat gun. What you say, Mike? A heat gun. It is so that you can knock your fucking stupid camera over. The wire lightly touched the fucking camera and sends it flying through the air. Well, that's really as good as we're going to get it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pouring. I kind of hoped you were able to see it. There it is. I'll take my phone. I'm coating this whole thing. It's not just I'm coating a little bit of it. This whole thing's getting coated. Okay, so actually, surprisingly enough, it turns out that all I needed really was, at least for this first coating of it, was the the 4 ounces that I made actually worked out perfectly. So now all you do is I'm just going to hit the heat gun on. Get some miscellaneous crap in it. And what I'm going to do is just run it over this quick. And the idea is just to try to, if there's any little bubbles anywhere, it just gets rid of the bubbles really quick. And any little imperfections that are in it. That's why, like, you start seeing some whiteness and stuff in different spots. Those are the bubbles. Hold the cable up. Hold the wire. Hold the phone camera. Oh yeah. And that's it. It's very simple. Not like a long process. You're not really using the heat gun that long. It's a really short and sweet, simple usage for it. And you see, like, it has like a little drippage here and there. Just gonna run this like along the bottom. Try to grab the drips here and there. Just hit them up once in a while. Just check it for dripping. This is gonna be all solid inside there, so that's pretty cool with that crack that's in there. And then the other one that had cracks in it. This has got like a little lake. See that? That's cool. Yeah. So that's definitely our first coat. The fuck? Anyway, I heard someone go, "Come on in!" I'm like, huh? But anyway, just checking in here. Yep, those things are all nice. Okay. So now I'm gonna let this sit for at least a good like 2 days before I really like do anything else to it again, or even like attempt to touch it or do anything. I have more stuff coming today. I got like these little mini skulls. I got some lights, some glow in the dark pigment powder and stuff. So I'm gonna experiment with that. Make like a little small batch of epoxy using the cheaper epoxy, and take like a piece of wood, do something to it, mix in the epoxy with the pigment powder, the glow in the dark pigment powder, mix it in, put it on the wood, let it sit for a couple days, stick it out in the sunlight for like 5 hours, or have it in the house with the lights on, or in the garage, and then pull it out and then see what it does, and see how well it works, because then that will depict on if I want to go through with what I was thinking was taking a pigment powder that glows in the dark and putting it on the inner sides of this so that the items glow, and then putting it here. And then I was even thinking about too, depending on how the glow in the dark works, maybe even doing like a thin coating on the spiral, the glass spiral. That would be kind of cool on the outside, like a thin glow in the dark line and stuff on it, not with like epoxy, but maybe like paint. I was thinking, because like wood glue actually dries clear, surprisingly enough, so mixing like wood glue with glow in the dark pigment, and then I was going to see if I can write something with the wood glue. So I got a couple different little ideas that I'm going to be experimenting with for this project to see if they're even worthy of frickin' pursuing. But that's that first layer of glaze, and that looks pretty decent right now. Hey guys, so after about a couple weeks of drying and me working like a dog, I've been letting the epoxy sit on the sections, and look how nice they look. That is quite a nice little shine to them. Yeah, they don't have like a really nice solid even look on them. I thought it was like weirdly bowed. But it kind of looks like where I put the tape, it didn't like seal up in some good spots. So I'm going to attempt to try to remove some of this tape. That one looks like it might have worked. going to see with that one. But these are all the different sections so far. That one looks like a toilet lid. And I'm going to go through them, and I'm just going to kind of try to trim off the little nubules that are on them. Try to clean them up before I really do anything else. I still kind of forgot to kind of do. I still have to epoxy that one. So I'm going to have to epoxy that guy up as well. And I was working on doing this here, which is for the Oozy Goozy. That's for the oh my god, the backflow. Jesus. Retake. So this over here, this is for the backflow incense. So the idea is that they're gonna, that's why I left the long hose tip, because I haven't decided how I'm gonna mount them in here yet. But they're gonna go down, the smoke's gonna travel all the way down, and then it pops out over there. And I only have 2 of them that are set up like this. I didn't set up the other one yet because I didn't really come up with an idea of how that's gonna be. But I do want to, once I get one of the legs finally finished, then I'm gonna coat it in epoxy. And then let it sit. So I still have to like kind of go through the backing of here, checking all this. I was kind of thinking about trying to fill this with epoxy. That might be a little bit harder, you know, a little bit easier said than done, just because I haven't really got the knack down for it yet, to try to top it off with epoxy, just so it's kind of level and stuff. And do I really want to sand it and fight with that shit? You know, doesn't really matter. This is all going to be facing the wall, so I'm not going to see it anyway. And these are going to be coated in epoxy, so that'll be fine. Before everything gets like assembled, everything's going to get a coating in epoxy. Now, I was experimenting with glow-in-the-dark additives, and I'm not going to lie, they're definitely a touch and go thing. I wouldn't say they're 100% easy to use, unless I'm just really not. Maybe from what I saw online, looked like a lot of people were using like a full packet. I was using like a little bit of it. I think I have to use like almost a full packet of this. So I still have like the lime green left. I have the orange I'm going to use. I'm not going to use the purple and blue. That's just, or pink and blue, whatever. I'll use the sunshine yellow. That's really bright. So I'll probably do each leg will have a coating of that mixed with the epoxy. So each leg is going to have its own epoxy, glow-in-the-dark epoxy on it. So it makes each leg a little bit unique. As it is for itself. This was like an experimental one when I was trying to do it with epoxy, and it'll actually all leaked out around it, and then actually the hose ended up popping out at the last second. But it made like a solid connection. So then that's when I kind of knew. I'm like, oh, okay, well this is kind of doable. Maybe. But that definitely has to get cleaned up and get epoxy on it before that thing falls through the wayside. So what my plan is for today, other than have a few drinks and listen to some music and just unwind from my long wacky week, is I'm going to go through each one of these and try to remove the taping on it that may be stuck now to the epoxy, and clean these guys all up, make sure they're all ready to go, clean off all the little nubs on it. I might have to just take the sander quick and just hit them quick with the sander. I like how every time I leave my garage, I say that I'm going to unplug everything on Sunday, and Sunday was last weekend, was last Sunday, and obviously I was obviously incoherent enough to remember to remove them. So it looks like the tape's coming off pretty decently, and I kind of left like a solid look in here, so it's kind of cool. I can actually see through it. It's got like a little glass wall on it, so that's kind of dope. You know, I know I can't really see it too well when there's stuff on top of it, but you know, that's fine. There's a little uniqueness to it, right? Other than that, I'm just going to start cleaning these up, and then once I get those cleaned, then I'll show you guys where I'm going from here with this. Basically, there's a backflow incent that I'm going to put in those. And what that's going to do is it does exactly as I'm wording it. The incent backflows. I think these were non-scented ones I bought. So I was just trying to buy really cheap ones. Oh, They're made in China, so they're probably all full of coronavirus. No, that was mean. That was mean. We know it's not the Chinese anymore. If you guys are watching this, it's because the news has changed and now they're blaming somebody else for spreading it. But anyway, so I'm going to take one of these weird cone head shaped people out. Maybe. I feel like they all have lead in them. Okay, they definitely scent it. That smells like lavender. So this thing has a hole on the bottom of it. See my hole? He said hole. So this hole is going to line up with this hose. He said hose. So that is going to line up with there, and then the smoke goes right down the tube. So the idea I had was I'm going to like try to make like a little attachment here where this is going to sit. So like this probably will go sit down in this hole here, and then that will feed into there. The only issue I was running into with that when I was doing it, experimenting it wise with stuff, is that when these things burn out, they're going to burn the wood. So that means that however this is going to interlay into here, it has to have like a metal encasing around it, or like that metal tape that I was screwing around with. You know, maybe I'll try that metal tape, put the metal tape down and stick that thing on top of it, and then let it burn, and then see if it actually melts the metal tape or not. Like here's a piece of metal tape, right? So I'll take a piece of metal tape. Okay, I'm going to cut a hole in it. Okay, so there's my hole, and I'm going to take a piece of wood. Did it go through? I don't know. I feel like it's going to kick back at me. There it is. Okay. See if this fits in the tube. Nope. I'm trying to get the camera lined up so you guys can actually kind of watch this. So here's our cup. It's not the cleanest cup. And here's our wood. Now, why did I make a hole in the wood? I had a bright idea. Well, what it is that I'm thinking of the metal tape would be like my interlay for it. Okay, so I'm going to stick that there, and I'm going to stick the incense on top. Now I'm going to light the tip of the incense, my handy dandy lighter. This is where the mad scientist is at work, as my mother says. The mad scientist is doing something in the garage. So as you see, I'm lighting the tip. There you go, you guys can see it better. Sometimes I want to light a little bit more. Try not to light the lighter on fire. That's never fun. Alright, so now it's burning. Just shot in real time, people. Alright guys, so I got some of the skulls installed. And there you can see all the little white and grayish dots that are there. And there's a whole bunch more on this one here. And that's the first 50, so I just ordered another 50 skulls. Plus I ordered some AAA batteries, which is nothing really to do with this video. It's weird, AAA batteries are the hardest things to have in my house. And then also I just recently ordered some LED lights that are going to be actually installed. Yeah, it's a scary thing to watch my girlfriend park in my driveway behind my Hellcat. But anyway, I also bought some LED lighting that's actually going to go around one of the rims of the centers where the ice is going to be held, so the ice glows whatever color I want. So that's going to be pretty cool, and it's battery operated. So that's what I love about this whole project. Nothing at all is connected to electricity at all. This is all either gravity or batteries. So I mean, you guys can kind of play around with what you want to say about batteries and stuff. Right now I'm using just buy, use, and throwaways, and then eventually it's going to be rechargeables when it comes down to exactly when that is. But currently, right now, I got to wait probably about 24 hours for the skulls to dry before I could actually epoxy the legs. So those guys are looking pretty dry down there. These guys I just did now. They're done. The reason why I bought more skulls was for the layers too. Alright guys, so what I'm about to start doing right now is I got the skulls and the legs. I just bought some more skulls to finish off the layers because they're going to need another coat of epoxy. But what I have going on right now is 3 different cups. One cup is for the bottom layer that I forgot to do. So that's going to get maybe like a little bit more epoxy than everybody else's. But then I'm doing each layer of the legs, or each little section of legs all mixed together, is going to have different colors of the glow-in-the-dark, and they're getting a full package inside each container, possibly. I gotta see how this stuff mixes together. I'm going to do one at a time as well, because I don't want this, you know, get all the epoxy made and then it starts setting, and then I start getting stuff screwed up. But here is the legs right now, as you can tell. I still have to brush them quick with the brush to make sure there's any sawdust or particulates that are on it that I don't need. But you see like all the little tiny skulls. I drilled them in, I glued them in with Gorilla Glue. They're holding pretty nice. This is the base right here. I'm trying the back side of painter's tape with that metal tape I have, holding it onto the bottom, and then having this like bent up a little bit like that. I'm trying to get it not to touch the wood so that like it does hold. Oh, just got loose. So like it does hold, but it doesn't, you know, type of thing, because I was having issue trying to actually get that off before, and that was a little bit of a pain in the ass. So I'm trying to actually avoid that. But I had this idea of where from top to bottom it's going to be different colors of the glow-in-the-dark epoxy, and hopefully it does work out exactly how I want it. If it doesn't work out how I want it, it doesn't work out how I want it. It is what it is at that point, but it's going to look nice no matter what with the epoxy on it. So that's going to be really fun. As you can tell, I've been like cleaning. I spilled some water over here, so now the floor is wet. Plus I was testing some other stuff, such as the incense on the legs. They work perfectly and stuff, so that's really cool. I made a little trap door that I can open and close. I used it with the metal tape. I don't really know how long that's going to actually last until something else, like unless that like lets go, so that might be like a very temporary thing at the moment. But I'm going to start mixing the glaze coat. I'm going to do, the first one I'm going to do is the base on the bottom, so I'm going to mix that quick and then make that. I'm going to put it on, and then I'm going to start doing all the other ones and stuff. And you guys saw how I was doing it before the mixing. I come up with a little measurement in my head, and you know, I stir it up together, and I let it sit, and then it works, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Now, because I'm doing it over there and I'm not using the heat gun, I realize if I actually brush it out a certain way, it doesn't cause any bubbles. If you're asking me how that is for some weird reason with the foam brush, I actually have better control of reducing the bubbles than actually using a paintbrush. So that's a little weird, interesting tip. I might be getting lucky with it. Other people might say that I'm full of shit, but somehow or another I'm getting lucky with it without having the air bubbles, because I look at it, and if I have air bubbles and I got to get rid of them. My heat gun is sitting right up top there, so I'll just pull her out, hook her into one of the bottom plugs, and we'll just blow all those bubbles away. So I'm going to start doing that shit right now. Hopefully they will glow at a decent rate. I don't really have too much confidence in this glow-in-the-dark powder, but if it doesn't really work and it gives like a moderate glow, I'm fine with it. I already tested it out with a sunflower that I've had for almost a week right now, and the sunflower face and the stem is good. A lot of it is rotting away. Of course, one of the things I did try, in case you guys were wondering, was I got a little crazy and I decided to my girlfriend and I decided to carve some pumpkins up. And I was like, oh, I had this crazy idea. Let me coat them in epoxy, which I did, and then try putting like the orange epoxy on it, or the glow-in-the-dark powder mixed in with it. Well, they didn't glow. And then other than the 9 million ants and flies that are attacking them right now, I started seeing like the little white crustacean on it and stuff. That's from the epoxy actually letting go from the surface of the pumpkin. So I don't know if I'm going to have like a clear shell when the pumpkin rots away, or it's all going to crack like glass and it rots away and it turns into just a giant mess. But those pumpkins are about a week old from the place we went out east to go pumpkin picking, and I don't know how long, if they are going to last. I would say if you do plan on epoxying your pumpkins, out of pure curiosity or for the hell of it, if you have a ton of epoxy laying around like I do currently, I would keep them out of the sunlight, because like people said, within a short period of time they start like this white cracking and stuff on them. And it's not a big deal for me because it's not like I was doing on anything else. I had this crazy idea of epoxying my Chevy truck, because I love that like showroom gloss that it gives off. But then if it doesn't hold up in the sunlight, it's just a waste of time and money, and then the truck leaks even more like shit than it already does. So that's where we're at right now. So I'm going to start mixing this stuff, start laying it out. I'm going to show you guys in a couple seconds / like 20 minutes for me to an hour of what that looks like. And yeah, it's a fun, cool project. I keep changing things as I go along. I bought more skulls. I bought some LED lighting so I can do my previous plan. So I'm kind of like waiting for stuff to come in, so I pause a little bit. So it's pretty cool. Eventually you guys will get this video, and hopefully it's not more than an hour long, but with all my jabbering, who the hell knows. Alright, so everybody, as you could tell, I did a lot recently over the course of a couple weeks before I started shooting footage again. And you can see I got that all shined up. I'm currently right now actually installing each level at a time, adding in the glue to the levels and stuff on it, so that this is basically almost like the final put together is what I'm doing actually right now. So I figured I'd start recording because I kind of forgot more or less. So I'm going to stick you guys, I think like over here would be the best. You guys can watch it as it goes down. Alright guys, so I got a lot of crazy things I just started doing recently. I got a skeleton sitting on the ground on like a little step on the bottom. He's holding where the coffee would then, cold coffee would then dispense into. I got one guy over here climbing up the side. Got one over here, he's kind of like just chilling out, waiting for the coffee to brew. I got this guy who's climbing up, who's right by the power button, which the LEDs are now inside that section, so that will light up. He's kind of like chilling out there, and I got one guy who's kind of just like sitting on top of the bench, and I was just now running the incense through the chamber sections to kind of smoke up the bottom. And I'll show you this pretty cool thing. So it's all battery operated. It's LED lights. You can change it to whatever color you want just by a push of a button. Maybe. I think it's because the sensor is actually not even picking it up. So it's definitely something I got to really kind of like screw around with to get this to work, because it's kind of like it works, it doesn't work. I kind of put like double-sided sticky tape on it. Try to figure out like where it's going to like line up. So maybe I'll just stick it like here. See if that works. Yeah, that works a lot better. And then the hand's going to kind of look like it's actually doing something. So that is actually where all of the ice would be stored. And just do like a push of a button, you know, I'll change the coloration of it. The legs all glow in the dark, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, that's our little $20 item to just kind of make it light up. But what I'm doing right now, you know, and then I shut this off because it's right back here. It's a little battery pack. And when I turn it on, it lights up like that. I shut it off. I routed out the section inside, the inner layer of it, so it would sit back, and then I use that metal tape on the bottom to just kind of like tighten it up a little for looks. But what I'm doing now is I'm making the sign that goes above it. So I'm calling it Skeleton Cafe, and I'm going to drill a different spot in each one and then take my router to it and then route out all of the parts of the lettering. And then what I'm going to do is make like a colored epoxy. I'm going to fill them all with that colored epoxy. So that'll be pretty cool. Maybe each one will have their own color. You know, like Skeleton and then Cafe. So maybe Skeleton will be like a whitish silvery and Cafe will be like an orange or something. You know, I'll come up with it when I'm looking at it and thinking about it, so you guys can kind of watch while I route away. Alright, so I got a little update going on here. So one of the things on top of the coffee drip system is actually going to be like a little sign that I wanted. And you can see I put like a little skull here, I glued them in. And this was my first time actually trying to route out bubble letters. So that was actually kind of fun and weird and interesting at the same time. And then I used two different colors. It's nice and hard now. I did this on Sunday, it's Monday now, and it's pretty hard. But I'm going to go back here and try to carefully kind of clean up the edges a little bit with my sander. But I want to show you something else that I was doing. Is I started installing the skeletons. I'm going to start from the bottom, work our way up. So over here is going to be where the main pod sits. and over here is like would be like the container that we're gonna pour the iced coffee into. So I got one guy, he's kind of like sitting on like a little piece of wood, and all the screws that you see that are in there on different skeletons, they're not gonna stay. That was just more or less so that, you know, like this guy here, to get him to stay, I had to glue him with his foot resting on another skull, him climbing up, looking up. I had to screw his hand in so that his hands would stay while they were getting glued in. His foot took 2 screws at 2 different angles. It's kind of funny, just to get him to actually stay put, and then his ass is resting on another skull. His hands here, I screwed him in like that just for the time being, because I didn't really have an idea from what he's going to be holding on to for that area. Just like with this guy here, one foot's there, one foot's kind of like sliding on here. His hand's up here, he's glued into there, and this is actually kind of more of a freestanding hand that's over by the lights. This guy here, he's kind of going to be like, you know, all the heads are movable and stuff. So he's going to be kind of like more or less, he's got free hand movement, because the sign's going to go over here. So these guys kind of like, I put their hands up because I don't really know exactly how I'm going to have it. And you know, like these guys, they're kind of sitting, he's sitting back, and then he's sitting on top of the post. I thought that was kind of a cool look for him, so that's why he's got 2 screws in him there. He's got a screw here for his foot kind of sitting against it, and that foot sitting down there, kind of resting on another skull. But what I wanted to show you was, if I take the ice stripper, now one little situation I've been running myself into is actually finding the tip for that, and it's a brass fitting, and I found the fitting online, but my issue that I've been having actually is finding it where it's not going to cost me 50 bucks. So I might have to like take this to Home Depot one day and hopefully find a fitting that's going to fit in there, or bite the bullet and buy the brass fitting. Either way. So what happens here is, this is all an LED strip. It's like about 20 bucks and change, and it's a battery pack. So you flip it on, and see that? It lights up. And then I got this stuck here, and I could just change the color or to anything I want. You know, so this would have the ice in here sitting. And what's cool with that being battery operated is this is a non-plug-in item. I want no electricity running to this thing whatsoever. So everything is all gravity, and if it's anything else, it's battery operated. Obviously, that's the last thing that I put on there. So obviously, that's the last thing that's electrical wise. I was screwing around with some orange epoxy mix, and I had a lot left over, and what I decided to do to kind of give it like a little bit more of not demonic, but more or less of like an aged type, is actually use some of that epoxy up here, and I put a lot on so it would intentionally run down the side of it. And what was cool, as it ran down the side of it, it gave it like that really kind of like dirt colored, rotten kind of wood look to it. And as you see that as well as it runs down, you see a lot of that in different spots here and there. And I love how that came out. It came out really, really good. And what's cool is because this actually glows pretty decently in the dark. I like it. So one of the projects I'm going to be doing today is I'm actually going to get it off the ground. It's going to be sitting on some bricks, and I'm going to make up a big batch of epoxy. And I'm going to use my paintbrush instead of just using the sponge, because the sponge really just doesn't really cut it when it comes down to this part that I'm about to actually venture onto. And I'm going to remove the screws that are all in the different spots that are holding the skeletons in. And I'm going to start now running the epoxy through from top down on each leg one at a time. Not paint, but you know, coat it on there. One of the things I started learning with the epoxy is the longer you let it sit when you're mixing it, the thicker it actually becomes, and a little bit more easier it is to actually deal with. When you mix it really quick and then you try to move on to something else, it becomes like a major headache. So I got some more bottles of epoxy here that I had from that's left over. I got some more skulls left over. I had a plan on what I was doing with the skulls, but my brain kind of farted on it, and I can't really remember what I was going to do with those skulls. I know some are missing from the top section that ended up getting removed in the process, and I was supposed to glue them back on, but by the looks of things, obviously I forgot. As you can see here, like a lot of them kind of like they got dislodged, and I must have forgot on Sunday to screw them back, to put them back in. So I'm gonna like kind of do that really quick, put some glue in there, put some glue on them quick, and then pop the heads back in. That happened when I was in the midst of doing a lot of different things on it, installing the electronics on it, and they kept popping off. So I was like, oh, screw it at that point. So I got to put those four heads back in. And probably drill a couple more holes in it, and then put the rest of the heads in, and let those kind of sit and start getting tacky and dry while I'm putting epoxy on everything else. And obviously removing the screws. I'm not going to epoxy the skeletons because I still want them to have somewhat of a free range. So they're not going to get epoxy, but a lot of where their bodies connect to the wood, that's where the epoxy is going to be on them. So that kind of acts like a second bonding situation. And then obviously like certain spots like up here, I'm not going to put epoxy around this because I don't want to screw up the LEDs. I might do a light brushing, but I'm not going to make it like a heavy focus. Alright, ladies and germs and ghouls and goblins and everything that is in between, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. This is the final wrap up to the Ice Brewed Coffee Brewer. Makes sense, right? I started this project in September at some point in time, and between my job and different things going on in my life, it took a long time to make. Plus, it was like you wait in a couple days. You lay down epoxy, and then you gotta wait 2 or 3 days for it to harden, and then that extends things. And most of the time, I was only working on it on Saturday afternoons and Sundays. And when you have to wait 2 days, it really sucks. But I want to show you guys exactly the final product and the start to finish of actually doing a brew. I've had multiple successful brews. I'm actually going to be brewing up one of my new favorite coffee flavored blends. I'm doing good now. So I'm going to we have espresso in it right now that I'm going to be wrapping up soon. So actually I have moved it into my kitchen because there's currently construction going on in my bedroom and I don't want dust and particles in it. So here is espresso. It has like a really nice golden color to it, and the reason why is because when you cold brew it, you don't have all the acids and stuff that are left over in it. So one of the first things I need actually is like a container or a bowl. I'm going to take a bowl. I want to remove the water holder first. There's still some residual water in it. Some water and ice, and I just want to remove it. That's the only way I can actually really get it out first. And then I'm going to take out this, which is where all the coffee grounds are in. I'm going to dip over to the sink. Now some people might not want to do this in their sink, and some people just don't care like I do. My pipes are big enough in my kitchen, not my bathroom, for me to actually just dump all the coffee grounds down the sink. So basically what you want to do is you want to clean this whole thing out. Make sure you clean out the nipple in here. Alright, so ceramic is cleaned off, that's cleaned off. Now we're going to switch over to getting the rest of the coffee out of the coffee brew bucket, or pot actually. So I already got 4 containers of espresso done. Okay. And with this, it's easier when you just pull it out and you can just dump it like this into the containers. Topping off all my containers. I know I'm off camera now, but I don't give a shit. Every drop counts of the cup of Joe. Alright, so that's good. Toss that one over there. Now we go back to the sink. And all we're doing really is just rinsing this out. And then the rest of the coffee grounds. Alright, so now we're ready for the setup. So how do you do the setup? Well, for starters, the spiral stays in there. So that's not going to come out. That stays in there. Then you want to put in what your coffee is going to drip down into. So I use this, of course. Next stage you need is to actually put your grounds in. So what we do, or what I do, we do, you do, who do, okay. Put that off to the side. So I take just a regular glass, nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. I take our coffee ground holder, take the ceramic, drop it in there, move it closer so you can actually see. Alright, next thing I need is my filters. Take the filter. Drop it in there. Now this one I've came across that Bailey's makes. Now Bailey's Liqueur makes an Irish cream that is, I would have to say, is really insane. And what's interesting, it's a premium light roast ground coffee, but in the cold brew system, the one it comes out when it's done, it's spot on to tasting like a nice glass of Bailey's Irish Cream minus the liqueur. Now how much do you put in, some people say? Well, it all depends. You kind of want to go up to where this top layer is. And then what you do is you brush it around very lightly. You don't want to get too crazy with it. You put another filter on top. Okay, and there you go. That's it. Okay, bag off to the side. That will go away. Those will put away. The aroma from this right now is utterly insane. If you're able to smell this, you got, trust me, you got to go buy yourself a bag. So now this is ready to go and get reinserted. So I'm going to put it down through the top hole. Gets inserted through here, and it has to line up right into there. Okay, good. Now we're going to go back to grabbing our ice holder. And the ice holder goes back through the top section, just like that one did. And just rotate it in. It's nice and tight. Now the LEDs are normally a lot brighter, but I toned them down just for the video purposes. So this is in the closed position. Well, I'm going to tilt it down just a hair, but there's no water in it. So as you can tell, I have containers of water everywhere. I'm going to take my water, but I'll go to put it in. Now here's the first thing that I'm doing wrong, is I got to make sure that this gets topped off with ice. So I keep it closed. Though a lot of these containers have been sitting for maybe about a couple hours, so instead of them being ice cold from the tap, they're more at room temperature. So one of the things you want to do is get some ice. Now one of the cool things was I had bought these little ice skulls, not really little, and after you make the ice, this one got a little deformed, but it's a skull. Isn't that pretty cool? And these skulls fit exactly inside. Let's see if I can get another one. See, look at this thing. Isn't that cool? Little ice skull. So I put my ice skulls in there. Now there's no difference in it. It's just more or less of a cool thing when it comes to Halloween time. You know, it's a big block of ice. That's all it really boils down to is that it's just one big block of ice that goes in there. This was from the what I used to make the ice. Take all my chunks of ice, slip them in there. The ice is sticking up in the air. Funny. I don't know why. Okay. Alright. So now we're ready to add the water. And because the water is at room temperature, of course a lot of the ice will melt really quick. Room temperature here is like probably somewhere in the 70s. Right now, 65, 70. I fill it up to almost the top. So now that's in there, the valve is basically closed on there. And the reason why I want to keep it closed for just a little bit of time is I want that room temperature water to drop in temperature before I start actually having it go through. Now, of course, you do see a droplet on there that is forming. That will, in a couple seconds, probably do drop down there. But that is natural. It's the condensation that is on the outside of it dripping down, plus maybe a little bit of the valve not 100% sealing it. But that's fine. That little droplet isn't going to ruin anything. So if I look at the condensation on the bowl and the cloudiness that I'm starting to see on the top of the rim, I think it's time to start actually dripping it in. Plus, the way the ice is starting to melt on top shows it as well. So I'm going to start turning it down. Well, what do you want for dripping wise? Well, this is what you're going to see. So I want not running like that, but I want like a good drip that drips like this. Okay. Then that's going to start dripping into here. Now you can see there's a little gap. Okay, that's what you want between the coffee grounds and the ceramic, is you want that nice little gap that's in there. And you're going to tell when it's starting to get more saturated, because you'll start getting more of the coffee brewing a lot faster. It's going to start, it'll start cranking along a lot quicker. See, here we go. Now it's starting to fill up with water. And our first stream is going through. And there we go. Coffee's brewing. And it's dripping down into the container. And that's it. It's simple as that. And you can see that this is starting to get darker and darker. So the rest of that is starting to saturate. And I can smell it right now. And this is probably one of the most potent coffees that I run through the brewer. Potent flavor, spot on, and the smell is just out of this world. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys venture down the same road of trying a cold brew coffee. It's definitely an amazing flavor. You don't realize how good the flavor is, how much it's enhanced, and it's pretty cool. And I hope you guys enjoyed the long video. I know it was probably longer than most people want to watch, and I tried to keep it as low as possible, but unfortunately a lot of information on a 3-month project. Enjoy. Definitely in this. Definitely not like hiding it at all. This has definitely got a very intense chocolate scent to it. How the fuck am I supposed to open this thing? Is it like a Ziploc? Oh my fucking retarded here. What the fuck? What the fuck? The fuck? I'm losing my mind here. I gotta cut it open with a pair of scissors. There's like a zipper on it. Good job, Mike. Start the video with not knowing how to open a freaking bag of coffee.